For more on where the investigations into the president are heading, Carol Lam, former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of California, who also served as a Superior Court judge in San Diego, and MSNBC legal analyst Cynthia Alexny, a former federal prosecutor. Carol, let me start with you on what we're hearing out of the Southern District. It strikes me as quite important because it is independent and parallel to the Mueller probe, but also that is a famous part of the American justice system. They call it the sovereign district. What kinds of conversations, as someone who ran a U.S. Attorney's office, do you think are happening in that office right now as they are undergoing this?
I'm sure there's drama of its own going on in the Justice Department, but an important thing to remember is that evidence obtained from any U.S. Attorney's office, Chris, can be shared with the special counsel. So what we do know from the fact that a subpoena was issued in the Southern District of New York is that they believe that they have venue and reason to be investigating the inaugural committee and the funds received by the inaugural committee, but they can share that evidence with any other U.S. Attorney's office or with the special counsel, and vice versa. So I think there are lots of negotiations and discussions taking place within the Department of Justice with the special counsel as to who is going to be handling which parts of investigations, but it doesn't necessarily signal where certain charges will be brought at the end of the day.
Cynthia, the House Intel transcripts were released to Mueller as Chairman Schiff promised. It's the first sort of major action that the chair has taken in his capacity. Donald Jr., Jared Kushner, Jeff Sessions, Steve Bannon, Brad Parscale. What kind of legal issues and exposure arise for those individuals now?
Well, the first thing to know is that Mueller probably already has the transcripts. He doesn't have the transcripts that are formalized and have the seal on them from the House, but he has the transcripts. So this is not, it's not like Mueller's office is sitting up all night long going, oh my goodness, he said that. No, they know exactly what's in the transcripts. So that's number one. And it all meshes together. Not only is there the legal question about the possible perjury, because Adam Schiff has already said that he thinks Don Jr. did not tell the truth in that hearing. But it's at the same time, the House committee is going to call back people who basically stiff-armed them. Remember, Steve Bannon went in there and claimed executive privilege, which is not his to claim. It has to be claimed by the White House. And it was sort of wishy-washy. You know, it was an executive privilege during the transition when Trump wasn't even the executive. Right. Maybe it was waived because he had already told all this stuff to Michael Wolff. I mean, the whole thing was a wishy-washy mess, and the Republicans would never take it seriously and do anything about the fact that Bannon had this wishy-washy executive privilege. So all kinds of things are coming together. All the planets are aligning to try now to get a real answer to what happened during the campaign regarding the Russian involvement and what happened during the transition and the inaugural.
Carol, let me ask you this. In your experience, we've seen Mueller now either get pleas or charge, I think, 5 people at least for false statements. It has been a recurring theme. Michael Flynn, George Papadopoulos, Rick Gates, Paul Manafort, Michael Cohen, Roger Stone, all of those people who gave false statements. Is that typical, or what do you make of his use of that prosecutorial tool in this investigation?
Well, I can't say it's typical to have that many people within a single investigation being charged with making false statements or obstructing justice. That does seem highly unusual. But I don't know if it's so much a tool as it could be also counsel simply saying, you know, these are relatively easy charges for him to bring. Right. And he might be saying, you know, this is what I'm going to charge you with at this point in time. It's not going to necessarily mean I'm not going to charge you with something in the future, but it does sort of set the table, and you know, he can move on to other things and then revisit other charges later if he wants to.
Well, and the question, Cynthia, I mean, as I look at the people, if you want to put those back up, whose transcripts have been released to Mueller, Don Jr., I think, being in some ways the most central in all this. You know, this is a group of people that in the public record has had some trouble with the truth. I mean, Jeff Sessions did not tell the truth under oath in his, nomination hearing about meeting with Russians. Jared Kushner's had to refile his SF-86 form under penalty of perjury countless times. Don Jr. gave us the story about you know, independent of what they did with the Russians, it does seem to me they might have a little bit of an issue here.
Right. I mean, Adam Schiff has already said Don Jr. has an issue.
Right.
I don't think there's any question. And I will say this also. There's something offensive that is inspirational for prosecutors when people so blatantly lie, and it's almost taunting. It's almost like you think we're stupid. You know, all these people, the adoption game and the creating the fake story to the New York Times by the president, what you don't want to do is insult people so much that it inspires them to go, you know, these are the easy charges. How could you think I'm so stupid that I'm going to believe that? And there's some of that going on here.
That's really interesting. Carol Lam and Cynthia Alexny, thank you both.